it right off the bat, what restaurants, as most of you might know, but what everyone is able to do right now is take orders over the phone. You can even take orders at the counter as long as there's social distancing, wearing masks and trying to keep that 6-foot separation. And that's the thing, even if you have a mask, please keep that 6-foot separation. So you can take orders, you can have people take the food off the premises. You can do curbside, run out to the curb. My wife and I were in Brattleboro yesterday, and we actually got food down there to see how it worked, and everyone was doing it a little differently. But for the most part, it's the gold standard is that 6-foot separation with some kind of face mask. That's the gold standard. You can deliver. Some people are trying that, different levels of success. As you might know, there is an addendum the governor sent out where if you provide alcoholic beverages, those can go out the door as long as there's a meal associated with that. So, which is unique as far as I can tell. I know they're doing it in New York State also. The big new thing that came out late Friday, and I've just been on a conference call on this an hour ago, is Addendum 11 to the original executive order, which requires all businesses now to train staff on these things we've just talked about. All businesses on social distancing, what to do if someone's sick, etc. And Meg, if you could put up the Department of Labor's.
Sure. Is this the, let's see.
And it's simple. A peer of mine took this training in about 8 minutes, so it's quick. But the neat thing is the Department of Labor has a website that you have a link to looks like a PowerPoint presentation. Very quick, very easy, very practical. And then the managers simply have to document that their staff has done that, and I think hand them a hard copy of these guidelines also. So the site that Meg has on the screen right now, that is where this new requirement lives.
And it's down here. You can take the training online now here, or you can print it as well. And I'll share this link in the chat.
Good. Thank you very much. The timing on this is perfect. So again, what my quick read, I haven't even had time to read the whole thing yet, is that each staff member gets a copy of it and demonstrates that they took it online. And again, I think there's 8 to 10 minutes to take it online, and then they'll have a copy and you just make a little notation that that was accomplished. So that's really the emphasis with food service establishments right now. I would just quick throw in what me and my peers are currently doing. We're still taking new applications. I have quite a few. We are conducting opening inspections and change of owner inspections, and those are being done virtually. So it could be anything from Skype to Microsoft Teams to Zoom, anything that works like that. We kind of walk through the inspection with folks, but again, that's just change of owner and openings. And we're handling complaints by phone. I get several a day. I got 2 just a little bit ago. We're also going to be reaching out. I'm one of the people that's doing a pilot project starting tomorrow morning. And the pilot is a simple questionnaire. I think it's going to be on SurveyMonkey or something like that, where I'm going to be calling some of my more full service facilities and just asking, I think it's like 22 questions. It is voluntary. So when I do make contact with you guys, I'll just say, hey, this is voluntary. I don't know how long it's going to take because I'm doing the pilot, but I expect it to be about 15 minutes. And we are documenting the responses just to kind of get a picture of how we're doing. And the other thing we're doing, of course, is foodborne illness, just like we always have. But we're not doing regular on-site inspections right now. And so that's it for my babble. I think I'll throw out too, because some of you might participate in farmers markets. And farmers markets are authorized to open on May 1st, but they're going to be very different because it's going to be more pickup. So these folks are you guys that have a product that you sell that's ready to go. You can't prepare food on site as far as I know. You know, especially if it's farmers, they have like honeys and jams and things are already prepared. Those can still be orders taken and people come to pick them, and then they do have to depart. So that's kind of a bummer. It's not going to be as fun as they were, at least for a while. But the final guidance for that is being developed by the Agency of Agriculture, and they are going to be putting out a question and answer sheet or a frequently asked question sheet, hopefully within about 2 or 3 days. Been hearing about it for a little while. Now, right now, it looks like still the date the governor has put out there is still May 15th. And I know Meg correctly said that you know, everyone needs lead time. If you're currently closed, it takes time to open back up. But that date of May 15th for opening could change, and it just might. I listened to part of the governor's address today, and I didn't get to hear the whole thing, but I didn't hear that date was being changed, except kind of an inference that things are going to be in place for quite some time. Well, I won't ask now, but I would get onto the governor's website and look for the summary of today's presentation about dates, because I know we're all very anxious and interested to know when can things get back to that horrible term, the new normal, but that we just need to wait. And obviously they're looking at data, they're looking at, you know, even the surveys we're doing might help them. Hopefully they will, to start opening up a little more and a little more. And that's it for me. But Meg, could you quickly show those other 2 sites specifically to food and lodging? We are updating our fact sheet about once a week, depending on what's coming out of the governor's office. But I recommend all you folks do put that on your desktop or your favorites and jump into this site. Okay, now that go ahead and leave that one up there, Meg. Yep. That's actually ACCD. You guys are probably familiar with that entity. What they're doing is kind of putting their own, yes, perfect, their own guidance together for all businesses. So, which in many cases dovetail what restaurants are being asked to do now as well. So that's a good site. That's going to be more of interest for the lodging people, because, you know, lodgers can have COVID folks or people that are responding to COVID stay at lodging facilities, and for questions you can talk to ACCD on specifics. But I'll quit babbling, and I'm open for questions.
I just also put up the food and lodging screen from the
I'm sorry,
department.
Yeah,
so that has
that's
some
ours.
things.
And there's our fact sheet. If you could click on that, I'm curious to see if it was updated. No, it's still April 21st. That will probably be updated very shortly. But there's also everything that deals with food, you guys. This is the one you want to go to first. That'll be your very first link. It's just at the Vermont Department of Health site, and it's big icon right on the very first page, and click on the guidance for food and lodging. And that is, you know, I could talk about that for a couple hours because of all these links that might or may not be applicable to you, but that's a great resource.
I'm going to put that in the chat.
Perfect.
Yep. I'll put those all in the chat. And that is the great. And do people, I'm sure people have questions. So you can either put a question in the chat or you can raise your hand and ask it in person. Or if you have suggestions that can be passed up of things that we need to be thinking about and some of the logistical things you're thinking about. And then Dick can stay on till about 2-ish, and then he and Eric from the chamber are going to hop over to the lodging specific call. So, but I'd love to hear what people's questions are, either, specifically right now for the health department, or if you have questions on other things, please do ask them, and I will put some more information into the chat. So I can unmute you if you have a question. You can raise your hand. Did everyone get that? If you go to the participants button on the bottom of your screen, it will give you a raise hand button that you can use, and then I will see your hand, and we can unmute you and you can ask your question. I'm sure somebody has a question. Oh yes, if you're on a phone, Eric is telling me, thank you, Eric. If you're on a phone, you can do *9 to raise your hand, and then we can call on you. I have a couple people on the phone here. I hear Eric. Okay, Dan Bagliotti has a question. And Eric Trites, did you have a question?
I did.
And then Dan, I'll get you next.
Okay. Go ahead, Dan.
Just Dick, for renewals, when you're going to be doing inspections this year, they're going to be virtual as well.
Right now, we're only doing the opening and change of owner inspections virtually.
Okay.
For the normal annual inspections, we have not been given approval to do that on any particular date yet. Hoping May 15th, we can get back in and visit you guys in person, but that's the way it's set up right now. But whether that sticks, I don't know. I will say with renewals, some of you whose renewals were coming up may have received an email.
I have not.
Pardon me?
I have not.
Okay, this is, I'm going to just read it. Blah, blah, blah. The Health Department's Food and Lodging Program is implementing a grace period for license renewal payments until July 1st, 2020 for businesses with existing licenses. This grace period applies to Health Department licenses that are due for renewal during the period from March 1st through June 30th. As the situation continues to be evaluated, renewal paperwork will be sent directly to applicable businesses closer to that time. So again, if you need to renew between March 1 and June 30, it can be delayed. The language here doesn't say it's waived. It said it's a grace period for the payments.
Yeah,
so,
I received my license, so it's I did it just before that period of time. So
good. Then you're good. Then you're good for a year from that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dick, Eric Price.
Eric.
I was wondering, is there any discussion about outdoor dining and cutting the amount of seating, restaurant seating?
There has not been any official discussion. I do get that question a lot. Right now, as all the executive orders and addendums and directives, they all state the same thing: no on-site dining as of now. But what I'm hoping, and again, this is what people are asking, is what if we have, like a family comes in and they've been together for months, they don't have to be 6 feet apart. Could they sit at a table that's 6 feet away from another table that's outside? From a practical standpoint, that makes a lot of sense to me, but we have not been given that approval / directive yet. So keep your eyes out on that last site that Meg put up, our food and lodging guidance, because that'll be something we'll pop in there as soon as we get direction.
Okay, and there's been no discussion as far as capacity in a restaurant.
Not yet. There
Okay.
has not. It's really all focusing on the staff, trying to keep with masks, trying to keep them 6 feet apart. And I know that's not possible in quite a few situations, but as good as possible. And having customers place an order and then taking the order off site. That's all we've got right now.
Right. I read the other day that they're not supposed to come into the building. Is that correct?
No, that's preferred.
Okay.
There's the language in these things always says to the extent possible. So
Right.
to the extent possible, great. In fact, my little story of going to Brattleboro yesterday, one place had have the big sandwich board outside with instructions that said, please stay out here. They had a separate table and they were having people call in from right outside on the sidewalk for an order. That right 100 feet up the road was another place that said, come on in, just stand 6 feet away from the counter and make your order. And that's where we ordered, and we handed, we had to get a credit card up to the counter. They spritzed it with that sanitizer solution, did the order, spritzed it, set the order on the counter. When it was ready, we picked it up and we went out and actually drove off in our car and ate somewhere. So I have cleared that with management and my peers that people are still going to counters to order as long as they're standing 6 feet away.
Mhm. Okay. Well, sounds like just the way it is.
Yep. Yeah, the really big thing, you guys, to me, it seems to me what keeps bubbling up is the on-site seating.
It is, because I mean, most places it's very difficult to remain 6 feet away. We're trying to do business, but I'm sure we're going to have to it somehow.
And I'll tell you, the vast majority of complaints I get are people concerned about crowding. And when some of these creamy stands first opened, and this is statewide, people were rushing to go stand outside their favorite little spot and get their desserts, and they were all clustering. So that was the big thing, just trying to keep your guests and customers 6 feet apart and have staff wearing masks, demonstrating that your staff is washing his or her hands, using proper glove use. People seem to be really watching that lately. And as we all know, gloves, especially for people that haven't been in the business for a while, I think gloves are a little misunderstood, where someone will put on a pair of gloves and keep them on for 4 hours. They're cleaning, they're washing, they're doing money, they're cutting food. We all know gloves are really a kind of a single purpose type of thing. So people are calling about that also.
Okay, I have another
Good
question.
questions. Go ahead.
I have another question here. I'm going to unmute you. I'm sorry, who's on the phone? The Samsung.
This is Sarah Jasinski,
Hi.
Pizza Palooza.
Hiya.
So, hey, Dick, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. So we have not been open, but just this last Saturday with the beautiful weather and where we are located, there was crowds of people coming up through. So I'm just wondering if we do the to-go or the takeout, our restaurant is located and licensed and has the outdoor license for a certain area, but we are also on 10 acres of land that people go in regardless of what it says on the property. They're heading up there and parking in our parking lot. And then there's, the big field that's there, and there are picnic tables there. What are we regulated to keep people out of that? Are they allowed to take their pizza to go or, and head up there? Cause at that point they're on it's not the restaurant's part of the property. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I totally, that is a great question. And I like to come at this from a practical standpoint. So the huge parking lot up the road from you that the distillery allows people to use for the trailhead. You know,
Yep,
it's almost, to me, it's the same thing. They could get a pizza from you,
right,
jump in their car, drive across to that other parking lot and eat the pizza.
right,
But as far as sitting outside, if you don't have control over that and you got that beautiful acreage right there,
yep,
and if they're 6 feet apart, I don't have a problem with it.
okay,
The whole thing, like I keep saying, I think the driver on this is 6 feet apart.
okay,
And hopefully the general public is wearing masks. I mean, when we were in Brattleboro yesterday, there seemed to be half of everyone walking up and down the side, and it wasn't jammed, but it was busy, were wearing masks, the others were not. So that's one thing you'll see in these documents is having a sign at your own place saying, please have at least a cloth face covering to your guests.
right, okay,
So, but I know that's kind of a babbly answer, but I think the correct response is if you're still doing takeout and not inviting them to sit at your property, you're fine. If they want to take that pizza and go up, 100 feet away and with their family and have a pizza, that's okay with me. That just makes sense.
okay,
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. I just wanted to say to that, that's something, and I just put in the chat, it's something that we have been discussing as Wilmington Works too, about sort of having people now open conversations with your town about the possibility of having some seating in different places. So we're exploring for, in downtown Wilmington, some people have areas where they could have seating outside, some people don't. Our proposal was to see if we can add some small group tables in various locations around town that would let people do that, and including signage that encourages proper social distancing and trash disposal. So the other question we had for sort of you guys in general was the idea of creating some sort of uniform signage that includes all the guidelines that then you could just download and print so that it looks the same in each business. So people kind of, so it's not, so it's very consistent. And if that's something that people are interested in, we can work with the Department of Health to make sure we're saying all the right things. And then that could be made up, designed as a little PDF that you could either download and print, or we could print and drop off for your business so that it looks the same in every business, so that people, it's uniform, so that you're not getting that one person's doing it one way, other person's doing it another way. So that's something that we discussed. Susan has a question. Susan, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
I guess this isn't really a Department of Health question, but being as we're all kind of up in the air and everything, when we do start seating, let's say tables in the dining room, do we need to remove the tables to allow for 6 foot distance and put them elsewhere? Can they just be roped off? Is there flexibility on the seating where, okay, that table might be open for this seating, but now you've got a group of 4 instead of a group of 2, and you're going to put a group of, is there a limit to, do we know if there's going to be a limit? What if you're a family of 6? Are we limiting it to 4? I know in some states that are starting to reopen, they have limits on the size group that can go out to eat. And then also, if we're throwing half the people outside, I know that they're letting you take booze to go. Are they going to be allowed to consume their alcohol in those areas if they do take their meals to go and go sit at one of these public areas, or on the business's property, and it just is an expansion of their outdoor consumption? If you already have outdoor consumption per se, like if you're expanding into your parking lot area, do you think we'll need to contact the Department of Liquor to see if they're going to allow that, or does it look like they're being flexible at this point? I don't know. I mean, I guess we don't have a lot of directive on any of this yet.
Right, and if I can jump in on both parts of that. One, again, from a practical standpoint, I think just putting, those table tents on the tables that can't be used, I think that's practical. That to me would be fine. We don't have direction on that yet. But I would certainly push for that and say that that's up to the managers and the staff to say, hey, here's the tables. They're scattered in a, at least 6 feet apart. And please don't use these other ones. And I would absolutely agree that the liquor board folks would need to decide about that open containers outside. If and when we get to that point where we can start having people sitting outside
When it stops
6 feet
snowing.
apart. But neither of those have been, bad word, but authorized yet. But I think they're both good ideas. So that's another wait and see. I'm sorry.
Mhm. Okay.
Isabel, did you want to ask your question? that you
Sure,
had?
I got a couple of things. We've been lucky to be open through this whole thing, and we have a very nice following. We've changed our model, which is something that I think a lot of people are going to have to start doing, is changing kind of like the way we do have an online ordering system, which is working out beautifully. We do have the occasional 1 or 2 people that do walk into the store and masked and protected. We don't let them into our area, retail area, or into our bathrooms. But we did have someone ask us this weekend if they could take their food and just sit on our side porch there, because we do have like little seating over there. So my daughter said, no, you can't sit there, but there was nobody else around, and she just wanted to sit outside and enjoy the nice weather. So there are lovely outdoor areas, like Wahoo's has that lovely outdoor area, and we have that huge deck in the back and the side deck. We're just like wondering when we'll be able to start letting people out there after the snow melts.
Yep. That again, right now, and we talk about that we have 3 calls a week for the food program, and this is brought up every time. We're all anxious to start allowing that, but that is not allowed in the current executive orders. I'm hoping, anyone that's seen the governor talk, he's using the analogy of opening the spigot. That's been his analogy, opening the spigot a little bit every time. Hopefully that will be one of the things we can do in the near future. But right now, I'd have to say officially, even though there's a nice little deck on the side, that still is not authorized.
Okay.
But I'm going to bring this up again. Our management, of course, knows I'm on these calls, and I've been asked to summarize the questions, and this seems to be a pretty major one that's coming out right now, is at least having some kind of seating that meets the intent of the executive orders.
Do we have other questions pertaining to this call, or any things that people have found as they've been doing takeout? I think people who have been doing takeout maybe have a lot to share to those who maybe haven't been open. So if there's any things that you have learned, maybe let us know, or raise your hand or wave, or just you can unmute yourself and jump in. It's just, I think it's good to share with each other what experiences people are having with that. So you can drop a question in the chat. You can just wave your hand. You can. Dick is waving his hand.
Doing it the old-fashioned way here.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've seen, I've talked to lots of folks, is when possible, having staff do single purpose type jobs, especially exchange of monies. And I know we just heard what a lot of folks are doing is taking orders over the phone, which is absolutely preferred. But if it's you're still allowed to make go up to a counter. If that person can only do money exchange, that really helps, as opposed to going back and handling food, just keeping it separate as possible. That's one thing I've seen. The other one, I had a place voluntarily do 10-foot separation because groups were coming. A family of 5 or 6 piles out of the van, and they're standing at the blue 6-foot line. Some people are taping out lines, and that's some complaints I got on that too, that people were jostling into each other just because of large groups. So you can expand your distancing if you want to. The other one was kind of shifting order and takeout windows. Like if you do have a drive-up opportunity, I even have one that doesn't, but they just put cones out in the parking lot where people drive, bumper to bumper through, and they wait outside the door for someone to come out and bring the product. So people have been very creative. I always recommend, your business is infinitely better than anybody else, and however you can manage to keep that 6-foot separation and train your staff now on that quick little training, I think you'll be in pretty good shape. The one we're hoping for is the seating. That's what's missing right now.
At this stage of the game, everything about the restaurants is pretty much May 15th, correct?
That is the current date, yes. But again, I listened to about 20 minutes of the governor's address at 11 this morning. And he and the Commissioner of Health, Dr. Levine, were saying, this is going to go on a while. We're going to be asking people to continue these things, but they were not specific. So I wish I had a better answer for you, Eric. I just don't.
June 15th would, it's not good, but, for the safety of all, it might be the answer.
Right. And actually, as you guys may know, lodging was instructed not to have guests until June 15th. They can take reservations now, but the first guest can't show up till June 15th. So there's that disconnect there. And hopefully that'll stick or not get delayed.
Dick, I was told on the lodging side of things that any reservations prior to June 15th that were already on the books did not need to be changed. Is that not the case?
Yeah, my understanding is that guests cannot stay at a facility until June 15th. But I will triple check on that, but I'm
okay.
99%. Thank you for that, Eric.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I've got it right here. If you guys could bear with me real quick, I will find it. Lodging. Okay, this is addendum 7 to the executive order. For the purpose of clarifying stay home, stay safe as it relates to the suspension of lodging operations, and that includes Airbnbs, home away, that kind of stuff. Here we go. Online reservations shall be suspended, and lodging providers shall post a prominent notice on their web platforms which advises potential guests that reservations for lodging in Vermont shall be accepted by phone only. That's not helping. Okay, lodging providers may permit existing guests to remain through the end of their scheduled stay. So if when this order went out, it was saying if there was already a guest in the facility, they could stay. However, they may not be allowed to extend stay or new reservations until June 15th. So that's the clarification, Eric, I guess, is that someone was already there. They were there for 10 days. They were only they had a 10-day reservation. They'd only been there for 4 days. They were allowed to stay to the end of their reservation. But was that clear enough? I was kind of babbling there. Okay.
Susan had a question. Go ahead, Susan.
I just want to circle back around to the staff training, and that is on the department. I just want to clarify that's on the Department of Labor's website.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
Now they
top of their page.
Yes. Now, is that something where they get certified, where they sign into it, or do they just need to review it and print it out? I'm wondering how we're going to get them all trained before we can actually all physically get together so everybody's on the same page.
I'll tell you, this is a really good point, by the way, is I'd reach out to your staff now, provide them that link and say, hey, we're hoping we can get rolling here pretty quick, but in the interim, please take this test. And I think at the very end of it, you can hit a button and print your certificate of completion. And then they
Okay.
provide that to you as the owner manager, and then you just have a little spreadsheet or even a handwritten thing that, yep.
Because they're used to doing that with their liquor, certification. So that would be something they're comfortable, with doing. And I just want to make sure that I let them know that that's mandatory before they can come back to work. So they don't, kind of sit on their hands and the last day they haven't even looked it over yet.
Perfect. That is I'm just making myself a note. That's a great idea. Take tests now. And I know, in fact, the guy, my peer that took it, he said yes. He had a certificate in his hand. He goes, I took it. It took 10 minutes. I printed my certificate. Here it is.
Okay.
And the reason I remember that, because we're not supposed to take it on that line. We have to take it on another thing, so it's logged into a state database. But everybody else can take it, print the certificate. Thank you.
Maybe, Meg, you can put that out there on the Wilmington work site so the link is clear to everybody that they need to access.
Yeah, and I have a note here from Royal saying says it has to be completed by May 4th. Now, I don't know if that's for people who plan to open or people who are already open need to have their staff. So people who are doing takeout currently, I think that means that you need to have your staff do it like right away so that you can show that your staff have completed that. I'm assuming that if you're not planning to open until the new directive is issued, that you have longer than May 4th, but that is a good note that if you are currently doing takeout, you should have your staff do that right away so that you can show that your staff have completed that. So that's a good note, and we will put that out. Eric and I will send a communication out tomorrow, and we'll put that out. So we have a few more minutes. I saw Eric from the chamber jumped off so he could go open up the call for the lodging people. So Dick, you can stay with us here, or if you want to review your notes for lodging, if anyone has any health department related questions, I guess ask them now, and then we'll give Dick a minute to just get his lodging hat on and he can jump over to that other call for our inns. Do we have any other questions immediately for Dick while we're here? You can raise your hand virtually or in reality and ask that question. Otherwise, we'll cut him loose and send him over to the lodging people. So it sounds like.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes, great.
So is May 15th is when we will know if we're able to actually open for dine-in business? Is that's as soon as it'll happen?
I'm hoping that we know before that, right now it's May 15th. If that is going to be extended, I hope there's a lot of prior notice to that. But I honestly don't know, Alan. I'm sorry. I'm going to read you the little official governor blurb that they gave me for this. Where is it? Just says, the governor, health commissioner, and the entire administration have been following the science and tracking the data as the situation evolves in Vermont. As the governor continues to emphasize, decisions about when and how to reopen businesses are being made very cautiously based on the data, and we can't predict exactly what the future holds. And I know that's not a satisfying response, but they are really doing this almost day by day.
Okay,
I have
very
another
good.
question. I have a question if Dick has one more minute. Has there been any discussion, it's Lori from the Dover Forge, about group events? We had 3 weddings on the books for June. Now we're down to 2. About numbers for that kind of group event.
Whether it's 50 or 100.
Nothing definitive, Laura. In fact, you know what? That one, look, before I sign off here, Meg, these are good questions. Can I get the responses to you and then have you distribute those?
Absolutely. We can send those out as soon as, when we have them. So that's good.
Okay, I will follow up on that one as soon as I can and get, but we've had that same discussion and there's not been a clear answer on that one.
Okay, thank you.
And ask about
Yep.
this with masks.
So just to clarify, those are some already scheduled. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think we're good. I think that was
Okay.
just a sound glitch.
No, that's it for me.
Okay. So, all right. Well, so I just wanted to say too that Eric Dorscher from the Chamber and I have worked to say we'd like to kind of do this again. Our plan is to host another couple of calls and to kind of help people, obviously as information, more concrete information comes out, we'll continue to put that out over our we've been doing bi-weekly emails. I know it's a lot. Also know if you have big questions, feel free to send them to us and we can try and research answers ahead of sending out our email communications. We also do plan to host another couple of calls. And hopefully you can hear me because it keeps telling my internet is unstable. That's great. Where we're going to have someone, we were thinking about having someone who has some experience in restaurant consulting with different levels and sizes of restaurants to come on to sort of have a guided conversation. We know that for every restaurant, it's different. Each establishment is unique. And so you're just, in a lot of ways, people will use their same ingenuity and creativity that they do to get through every day. But if we can be clear about, what the guidance is along the way so people know that information, we're happy to research answers to questions that anybody has. And we're hoping to have another couple of calls. I think, restaurants are going to have one set of calls. Retail is going to have another set of questions. Lodging has another set of questions. So being in a small group like this, where we're all in the same business, can be really helpful because some of the questions we can really get in the weeds about POS systems and server stations and, takeout. Some of the information will be the same, but a lot of it pertains directly. And, we're hoping to be able to work with, as we said, maybe creating signage so that it's consistent, so that everybody can have that posted and people will see that over and over in a consistent way. That might be helpful. It's a moving target right now, so it's frustrating. But, we're here to help and we can design, you don't have time to be sitting designing a PDF with all the updated information. So we're happy to help if we can with producing those kinds of things and to bring you information. So I'll just say we're hoping to have another call in a week or 10 days to help give you ideas that you can then take into your business and craft the way that would work for you. Because again, it is going to be different for everyone. So I think we got a lot today out of, okay, hey, have your staff read this. If you are open for takeout, have them definitely do it before the middle of next week. But for everybody to be up and to have received that guidance, I think is important so that we know what we're working with. And then as we get more information, we can help kind of roll it out. Again, doing seating scattered around in public places that people could access, to helping create signage. That's sort of what we can do. And if you have questions, do send them to me, send them to Eric at the Chamber. We can get answers. I don't know, Gretchen, if you want to add stuff, anything sort of pertinent to this week about more nitty-gritty financial stuff. And then maybe Dick, if you want to jump off and you can jump on the lodging call with Eric, we really thank you for being here.
All right, and thank you for this opportunity. Thanks for everybody on the call, all the great work you're doing. Let's keep our fingers crossed we can get back to something more normal pretty quick. But thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dick.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
And I just wanted to tell everybody that the SBA has approved more money as of 10:30 this morning. You are able to apply again, or actually apply if you have not already, to the economic injury disaster loan. If you haven't done that, you can do that. There's PPP money back. That's the payroll protection program. And that you have to work through with your bank that you bank with. And if you have like some questions, please don't hesitate to call me. I am working from home. I don't get cell service here. So feel free to give me a call at home. And I think that's it. We talked a little bit about unemployment in the beginning of this call. If they're asking for your 2019 taxes, just send them your 2018 taxes for the unemployment piece. So, because obviously you haven't gotten those put together yet. So, but don't hesitate to give me a call, or if anybody has questions right now, I don't mind answering them.
Anyone questions? Oh, yep, Isabel, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I think we unmuted.
Hi, so of course, we've been operating since, we never shut down. So we were able to keep our employees paid, plus they did do part-time unemployment, and we just got our approval for our PPP, which just came in last week. I'm still waiting for the money. So for the next 8 weeks, we're in a good position. So I'm able to continue paying my employees, getting them off of unemployment, which is the goal of the PPP. But the problem is, and like the way I'm looking at it, is that PPP money, that expires in June. Now, what happens then? If we are not allowed to be at full capacity, we are not going to even reach last year's numbers as far as what our sales were. And of course, we're not going to need all the additional employees that we usually have coming in for the summertime. So it's kind of scary, like the future here, because if we aren't allowed to be fully functional come July, August, September, which is Wilmington's, hot time, that's when we make all our money. It's kind of scary to think that, we're going to have to lay off a lot of people. We're not going to need people to come in. We're not going to need 3 people in the kitchen. And that the other part of this that's really scaring me too is all those people that were coming over the summer, they might not be coming this year because of this whole fiasco. They're not going to be able to have discretionary funds to go and spend a weekend in Vermont or whatever. So I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of like some sleepless nights there.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, but I also believe that we will have more people doing day trips, which I think might benefit you. I think people are going to want to be getting out of the city. And, I think real estate will start happening as well, because I think people are going to want to live in a more rural community, to get out of the cities. So both Boston and New York in the hot spots. So I know it's very unnerving, and I don't have any comfort words except for those that I believe we will hopefully be in a better place, and maybe it won't be this summer, but it could be, the fall or next summer, or over the winter months. But with the PPP, I just want to make sure that, you keep really, really good records, because dealing with the SBA is always a challenge. And, like if you don't have a T crossed or, something, they'll try to get out of, giving you that forgiveness on those 8 weeks of payroll. So you want to be really, like even I suggest putting it into a separate account and do dollar for dollar, penny for penny, actually, when you're doing your payroll on a weekly basis, and just pull it from there. So,
I see,
but
Sean, you have a question? Gotta unmute you. There you go. Go ahead. Oh, wait, we can't hear you. 1 second. I don't know why my unmute button is not working, so go ahead and just unmute yourself, Sean. There you go. We gotcha.
Better?
Okay. Yes, good.
Thank you to everyone for organizing this every week. So I'm really glad to be a part of it as a new entrepreneur in the Valley for our first year anniversary is next month. So it'll be bittersweet. But I do think our PPP aspect should come through this week. The challenge is I've got 3/4 of my staff who are making more money on unemployment and they're sparse hours here and there to stay open at the Maple Leaf. And I don't know how I'm going to get people back until the end of July when that $600 sweet spot a week goes away. So this is more of a statement, but I fear the same politicians who don't have a clue about how businesses run are going to be dictating our restaurant world. I'm also a critical care nurse. My wife's an immunology physician. You do not need a mask if you're 6 feet away from somebody. You do not. If you are closer than 6, you need a mask. I know in my kitchen, you can't be 6 feet apart from everybody and actually fire an order. So I just have very high level of concerns, and I know Dick means well about everything. I'm not moving a table out of the restaurant. I'm going to play Tetris with it and see fit how you can keep people in a very safe environment, but there is no need to tip over the apple cart and not be sensible. The most common phrase is, use common sense. But if everyone used common sense, there wouldn't be a need to say it, because most people don't, because it's rarely common. So I guess my concern is the rollout. You get a date, and then you get these from high above mandates that don't plug and play in most of our restaurants. So I'm bracing. We're optimistic. We've been very, very fortunate to stay open. But I think to Isabel's point, how am I supposed to pay people for 8 weeks at full time when they don't want to work off of unemployment? And then you must use that money, 75%, to pay the people. Otherwise, you owe it back. So it's kind of like they thought it was this real gift, and it's actually a noose. So again, these are more statements, so I apologize. I'm not trying to pontificate, but I think it's something that I think our voices need to be heard about. What does flow look like in a restaurant? I know my mom and dad with their bed and breakfast, same things. And most of these people up in Montpelier and Washington have never run a business in their life. So sorry to kind of just complain, but it's more of I have this focus that I want to stay very laser focused, but at the same time, there may be things that are out of our control that people that don't know how to run these things are going to dictate to us.
I think government is kind of a blunt instrument sometimes. So, I think it's good to be able, the good thing is we are in a small state, so our voices can be heard. So I think it's important when we have these conversations, that helps us to sort of take people's feelings and the reality and convey that. So we will certainly, keep having conversations with our, elected representatives. Some, things have come from the federal level, but a lot of the business information and business opening will come from the state level. So we will continue to, I know the Chamber of Commerce groups have had a lot of conversations. I belong to a downtown group through ACCD, where it's people who do what I do in downtowns all across Vermont. So I will say that there is some listening going on. And so hopefully there'll be a willingness to have flexibility and to make things sensible and to do what we can to, again, it's going to look different in every restaurant, what you can do. So I think if we can sort of keep the communication going, I think that's the best thing we can do, so that it goes both ways. And definitely we're happy to go back and to help you. Yeah, Susan, you have a statement here. Let me get Susan. Go ahead, Susan.
Well, I just wanted to add to that, and I think this is kind of how we're all feeling. If you run a restaurant, you can't run on 50% and cover your your ongoing costs. You can't do it. I mean, we know that from our slow seasons where we lose money hand over fist, and we just hope that we made enough in the busy season to get us through. And that's kind of where we are right now. We have some money that we made over the winter time, but that is not going to last very long. And it's certainly, if we don't have a good summer, which I'm not real hopeful at this point, we won't make it till the fall. So I just don't know if our legislators realize how difficult the business is, as far as hanging on through the slow times. And this is going to be slower than slow. We can't operate on just some to-go food or 20 dinners a night. We can't pay our bills with that. We can't pay I pay $25,000 in insurance costs alone just on the anchor a year. How can we possibly do that or put people on part-time? They're not going to, it just doesn't make any sense. So that's how a lot of small restaurants are not going to make it through this. So they need to keep that in mind when they think about the restrictions that they're going to be putting on us. They got to think outside the box on how we can do as much business as we possibly can to overcome this.
Absolutely. No, it is going to be a challenge. So it's going to take a lot of ingenuity, for sure. Anybody else? Eric, I saw, did you unmute? Did you have something to say?
No, I just, the May 15th thing is, from what I know about all of this is kind of a dream. I think if we're lucky, we'll see June 15th, to be quite frank with you. It just, it kills people. So they're definitely going to take a harder look at it.
No, I do. I think that's right. I think we'll just have to keep our eyes open on what they say. And I know, our governor has been very cautious, which has been good. And I know that we, in our area, we have a lot of people that come from other places. And that's sort of the part where I think his caution really comes in, is that, we need to be not only just following guidelines for following guidelines, but as you say, it's, it has been serious. So we will really,
I mean, it really stinks for us in business, but I just don't, I wouldn't be dancing, and saying, Jesus, it's going to be over here May 15th. I just don't see that happening. It's when we consider that we had a good day, we only had 435 people die today. I mean, that just isn't a good thing.
It's definitely challenging times, and I agree. I mean, it's bad that this all happened, but also the timing of it was, I think, really best for us as in a resort community, where this is usually our slow time. And so, I think that's maybe the positive on it. And I'm sorry that I'm trying to put a positive spin on this. But the other thing that you have to keep in mind is that, the state needs their liquor tax and their, meals tax. And, I think that they will be, I think that they're very conscientious of that, and that's in the back of their mind, but they also want to err on the safety of employees and of visitors, or people going into restaurants. So I think that's a good thing, because if we have to do this again, if there's a second round, the second round, we're going to be shut down longer, and that's not good. That's going to be really, really bad. So, and I do also believe that there will be more money coming through with the federal government for actual recovery money. So, and possibly through FEMA, that hopefully will help businesses. So
we'll keep our fingers crossed. But so I think, it's 2:20. So I think we're going to wrap this up, let everybody get back to their day and what they have going on. We will let you know, give us feedback about questions that you want answered, please. And we will try and do this a couple of times more, 2 or 3 more times, I think, just to go with the sectors and just try and get some general guidance for people, things to think about that you can take and apply to your situation. Again, we know everyone's situation is so different. But, hopefully there's kind of a way that through this and answering questions and sharing information and just, if you have something great that has worked for you, please share that, let us know so we can share that with other people. I think, kind of we're all in this together, kind of with the same situation. So the more that people can share information and help us as a community do what we need to do, I think will be good. We're looking forward to hopefully being able to go back to doing some marketing, but not until that's responsible, so we want that to be done in a responsible way. We don't want, they're saying, I don't know when it's going to feel good to have town thronging with people again, sadly, but if there's ways that we can make it work and things that we can do for the Chamber and Wilmington Works to be a partner with our community, we're really happy to do that and do what we can to sort of help and do the things that we can do, that we do well, to help you do what you do well. So please keep the communication open and we'll let you know. We're just, trying to have guests come on who can give some guidance and information and just speak amongst ourselves and see what's working for people, what's not working. And this will be a long process. So, we can keep it going, keep the information. So please send feedback and let us know what's working for you and questions, and we will try and get those answered. So with that, I'm going to jump off and we'll see everybody. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys another time. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'll turn it off now.